Today's material is an entertainment and business news article detailing the upcoming August 31st launch of the Domino, which is a personal, logo-shaped Detroit-style pizza aimed at reversing flat same-store sales by targeting the growing demographic of solo diners.
Right, yeah.
And right out of the gate, I just want to say this is a highly capable, structurally sound piece of business journalism. It effectively communicates the what and why of the new product really well.
It really does, but, let's jump right into the feedback because expanding on the competitive landscape could significantly elevate the stakes of Domino's new strategy here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because the weakness here is that the text introduces some incredibly potent industry data, right? But it just leaves that context hanging without fully integrating it into the main narrative.
Like the store closures?
Exactly. The material mentions near the end that rivals like Pizza Hut and Papa John's are closing hundreds of U.S. locations. And it also, briefly notes that Pizza Hut added its own Detroit-style pizza years ago.
Right.
But the piece fails to connect these rivals' specific struggles to Domino's own strategic vulnerability or, its potential advantage with this specific product launch.
Yeah, it notes they've held up better despite flat same-store sales, but
because that industry context is isolated in its own section, the reader completely misses out on the actual gravity of the situation.
right, yeah. As I understand it from the notes, the argument here is that Domino's is holding up better despite those flat sales, but they are clearly playing defense in a tightening market.
Exactly.
It's like describing a race, but only looking at one runner's new sneak, right? Without fully analyzing the muddy track conditions that are causing the other runners to slip.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Yeah, because if I am reading this right, holding up better in a collapsing market isn't exactly a victory lap. By isolating the information about competitors, the article inadvertently downplays the massive risk they're taking.
Yeah, so the suggestion to resolve this is to integrate the rivals' struggles directly into the analysis of why Domino's is taking this specific action right now.
Make it part of the main story.
Exactly. By pulling those isolated industry facts up and weaving them into the core narrative, the writer can transform this from a simple product announcement into a cohesive, high-stakes narrative about market survival.
Right, because if competitors are literally boarding up hundreds of storefronts, then launching a highly specific, operationally complex new menu item is a massive gamble.
It really is.
Let's see how we can strengthen this with some concrete adjustment. Because if we look at the mechanics of same-store sales, flat growth means you aren't bringing in new foot traffic.
Right.
But if Papa John's and Pizza Hut are closing doors, those displaced customers have to go somewhere. So if Domino's isn't picking up that slack, that flat sales figure is actually a red flag.
Yeah, building on that point, for some concrete examples of how to execute this, the author could take that massive figure provided in the source material, the $20.6 billion in global retail sales.
That's a huge number.
Right, and contrast it directly against the specific operational reasons rivals are shrinking. When you place a $20.6 billion operation in the same sentence as closing hundreds of U.S. locations, you instantly establish the massive scale and the precarious nature of the industry.
It creates a tension that is currently missing.
Yeah. And of course, these are just a few out of all possible ways of solving the problem.
Sure. Another option I'm seeing is to explicitly compare the Domino to Pizza Hut's older Detroit-style offering. Like, if Pizza Hut did this years ago, the writer could evaluate whether Domino's is truly innovating for this demographic of solo diners or
if they're just playing catch-up.
Exactly. Are they leading the pack, or are they merely trying to plug a leaky bucket with a competitor's old idea?
Right, and that perfectly transitions into our next point. Because bridging the gap between the corporate justification and the actual consumer financial experience would create a much more compelling and critical analytical conclusion.
Oh, the pricing stuff, yes.
Right. The weakness in this section is structural. The article makes a very astute observation at the very end regarding an arithmetic complication.
Yeah, the math on the individual pizzas?
Yeah. It points out that a group of three paying $7.99 each for these individual pizzas spends more than they would on a single large pizza.
Which is wild.
It is. It's a sharp insight. But this observation is entirely isolated at the bottom of the piece. It is completely disconnected from the earlier claims made by incoming CEO Joe Jordan.
Right, where he argues that traditional pizza fails because it forces a compromise on toppings?
Exactly. And because the math is separated from the corporate messaging, the piece misses a prime opportunity to critically analyze the company's PR narrative.
Wait, honestly, the way the article presents the math and initially left me scratching my head. If the product is meant to solve a pain point, isn't paying a premium for individual pizzas just trading a topping compromise for a financial compromise?
Bingo.
I mean, 3 people buying this solo product spend nearly $24. A large pizza's what? Maybe half that price on a standard promotion?
Right, exactly. So the suggestion here is to weave the pricing arithmetic earlier into the piece, to challenge the corporate narrative in real time.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, this elevates the article from a descriptive summary of an investor relations release into a much sharper piece of consumer advocacy and analysis.
Yeah, because the friction between what a company says to the press and what they actually charge at the register is where the most insightful business journalism is.
Absolutely. Let's look at some concrete examples for improvement based on exactly that friction. Again, keeping in mind these are just a few options out of many.
Right.
When introducing Joe Jordan's quote about avoiding compromise, the author could immediately juxtapose it with the math of that $6.99 mix and match deal versus the $7.99 solar price.
Oh, wow, yeah.
The writer could literally ask in the text if this price premium is the literal cost of compromise. Instead of letting the executive have the final word on consumer behavior, the journalist steps in to provide the financial reality check.
I love that, because a key theme running through this material seems to be the concept of the solo diner demographic, right? The company points to Circana data showing that 43% of meals are eaten alone.
Right.
But if I am a solo diner, I still have access to the $6.99 mix and match deal. I could get 2 medium pizzas for less than $14 and have leftovers for days. Paying $7.99 for a tiny, individual portion seems like a massive premium just for the privilege of not sharing.
Yeah, so alternatively, they could frame a new paragraph questioning that Circana market research directly.
Right, like, yes, 43% of meals are eaten alone, but are solo diners price sensitive enough to notice this arithmetic quirk?
Exactly. Or are they just looking for absolute convenience? You see this in the grocery store all the time, right? People pay twice as much per ounce for pre-chopped onions because they don't want to do the work.
So is Domino's just applying the pre-chopped onion tax to a pizza?
That is a fascinating way to frame it. The author might explore if this pricing model is actually designed to push people back toward the larger, higher margin combo deals.
Oh, decoy pricing.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes a new expensive product is introduced just to make the legacy deals look like a better bargain. The writer could investigate the decoy pricing angle or lean heavily into the consumer tax angle.
Yeah, it empowers the reader. You aren't just telling them what the pizza costs. You're exposing the underlying strategy of the pricing.
Right.
You're showing them that the company has identified a psychological pain point, the annoyance of compromising on toppings with your friends, and figured out exactly how much of a premium they can extract to alleviate that annoyance.
Exactly. And that leads right into our final area, which is about the visual side of this. Exploring the branding implications of the logo-shaped design would add a fresh, original angle to the business report.
Oh, the fact that it's literally shaped like the logo.
Yeah. The weakness here is that the text treats this highly unusual branding move purely as a physical description of the Parmesan-encrusted pan dough.
Yeah, they mention it's the first product named after the brand in over 65 years.
Right. And it notes the unique two-slice red and blue logo shape, but it never analyzes why a company facing stall's same-store sales is suddenly leveraging its core brand identity so aggressively.
It just describes the cheese and moves on.
Yes, it just moves on to the next paragraph.
Let's look closely at the section discussing incoming CEO Joe Jordan's comments. He is very specific, almost defensive about it. He tells the Wall Street Journal that this isn't a sandwich experience, and it isn't a calzone experience.
Right, it's a pizza experience.
Yeah, there is an intense insistence on brand identity happening here. It's almost like they are issuing an edible, buttery business card to physically remind people they exist.
That's a great analogy. So the suggestion here is to dedicate a brief analytical thread to the marketing and psychological significance of this design, particularly during a period of stalled growth.
Right.
Why, after 65 years of selling standard circles and rectangles, is right now the moment to release the Domino? It requires custom pans, new operational training, and a complete disruption of the make line.
You definitely don't do that just because it looks cute.
Exactly. Let's outline some concrete examples of how the author could explore this angle. And again, these are just a few possible ways to do it.
Sure.
The author could hypothesize whether this highly visual two-slice logo shape is engineered specifically for social media virality.
Oh, totally.
Is the primary goal to boost organic marketing among younger demographics who might not post a picture of a regular pepperoni pie, but would absolutely post a picture of a literal logo-shaped pizza on their feeds?
It transforms the customer's dinner into free digital billboard space.
Exactly.
But, consider this from the operational side, too. The source material notes that independent franchisees run 99% of the chain's locations.
If I am an independent franchisee running 10 stores and my same-store sales are completely flat, I am probably getting frustrated with corporate. I might be looking to cut corners or, complaining about royalty fees.
That is a critical dynamic to explore. The author could use that 99% franchisee statistic to explore if naming the product the Domino and shaping it like the logo is a defensive psychological play by corporate.
To reassert brand dominance over those independent operators?
Yes. During a stagnant quarter, corporate often tries to tighten the reins, mandating that franchisees must buy special rectangular pans and bake a product shaped exactly like the corporate logo isn't just a menu addition.
It's a power move.
It is a daily physical statement of authority. Every time a worker pulls that pan out of the oven, they are looking at the corporate stamp.
Wow, I didn't even think of it like that. I'm looking at it slightly differently too, though. What if this isn't about internal control at all, but rather a pure desperation play directed at the consumer?
How so?
Well, when you have $20.6 billion in global sales to protect and your rivals are boarding up their windows, you might just throw your most recognizable asset, your logo, directly onto the plate to see if brand loyalty alone can drive foot traffic.
Ah, yeah.
It's like a band playing their biggest hit when they realize the crowd is falling asleep.
That makes total sense. Engaging with the why behind the shape changes the entire tenor of the article from standard food reporting to deep corporate psychology.
It really showcases how a few structural adjustments and a willingness to ask why can completely transform a piece of writing. I mean, the material makes a strong case for the product filling a gap in the portfolio.
Definitely.
But analyzing the shape, the pricing, and the market pressures elevates it to a completely different level of journalism.
Right. So let's take a moment to pull all of these threads together into an actionable summary.
Sounds good?
Today, we looked at a strong, fact-rich overview of Domino's new single-serving pizza. We've identified that the material can be significantly elevated with a few targeted structural moves. First, pull the data about Pizza Hut and Papa John's store closures up into your main analysis of Domino's flat sales.
Right. Don't leave it hanging at the bottom.
Exactly. Use it to establish the true high-stakes market conditions. Then from there, move the arithmetic showing that 3 $7.99 individual pizzas cost more than a large pizza up the page.
Put it directly next to Joe Jordan's quotes about compromise.
Yes, to challenge the corporate narrative in real time rather than letting the PR spin stand unchecked. And finally, add a sentence or two questioning the branding intent behind having the consumer physically eat the company logo.
Yeah, address the 65-year history of the brand and investigate whether this is a play for social media dominance, a way to exert control over franchisees, or just a desperate bid to reignite stalled sales.
Exactly.
Well, we highly encourage the author to apply these actionable suggestions and submit their revised work back in again for further feedback. It is always a pleasure to see how a piece evolves when these analytical layers are added.
It really is.
Think back to our earlier discussion about describing a race. Right now, this article is doing a fantastic job describing the runner's new sneak. We just want to see a bit more of the muddy track conditions they are running on, and we want to know why those sneakers cost so much in the first place, because that is where the real story lives. Until next time, keep analyzing, keep pushing back on the narrative, and keep writing.